What's going on, guys? And today's topic is, does HRT have a place in the female realm? Specifically looking obviously at competitive athletes, more specifically those that are going to be competing year after year after year. Now, the message I'm trying to drive home is that HRT in this situation here could be a more viable option in terms of health and longevity in the long term. Now, when we talk to most females or natural competitors about using exogenous hormones, they typically would think straight away super physiological dosages or being enhanced, right, to achieve or attain a physique that's out of the ordinary or the normal realm. Which of course comes with its own risks of virilization, which is obviously the main turnaway point for most females in this situation. Now, HRT by definition is just replacement. Okay, it's a replacement of your normal functioning hormone levels. The reason why I think this is so important to drive home, and something that a lot of females within our industry should consider, and this is not the typical message drive home, is that typically on a natural prep, those of you that have competed will understand and know this, it's very normal on average for a majority of females. I say majority because there are outliers. Some females who will maintain their menstrual cycle the entire way through their prep. It is very rare, but it does happen. The vast majority, however, will enter some kind of an amenorrheic state at some point on the duration of their timeline in prep. Obviously, in that hypercaloric state, in an extreme deficit, it's very normal for the human body to then prioritize survival mechanisms within the body over reproductive, at which point the female body will enter that amenorrheic state where it shuts down the normal regulation of sexual hormones. Specifically, we're thinking about estrogen here and what deleterious effects that can then have and translate into the female physique. Now, one way to look at this is when we look at postmenopausal people, so females that have gone through the menopause, the main risks that pop up due to lack of estrogen or low estrogen circulating in serum blood levels is the heightened risk to heart health, brain health and bone health. So this is predominantly quite a large problem in that portion of the population who are in that postmenopausal state. Now, when we think about that, translate that back to our competitive females. What are they doing? They're shutting down the regulation of the hypogonadal axes, and thus estrogen and all the other sexual hormones drop to very little, if not nothing. So in that acute setting during the contest prep window, they are in this same state as the postmenopausal women, where the heightened risks to heart health, brain health and bone health then increase. Now, in an acute setting, in one prep, this shouldn't really be too much of an issue. You'll reverse out the other side and the damage done will probably be very little and very manageable. But again, thinking about the repetitive competitor, someone who's going to go season after season after season, who falls in love with the sport, that damage done will accumulate over time. So again, thinking primarily on health and longevity, HRT would be a very, very useful way to offset this. So I'm not recommending that first-time competitive females jump on HRT straight from the off, because you may not love the sport, and if you don't, and you don't enjoy your time on stage and you're not going to compete again, it's probably not worth taking that chance of using HRT or taking some of the minor risks and complications that could occur with HRT use. But for those of you that are going to be, competing time after time again, you will want to offset those negative adaptations as best as possible. Again, thinking 50 years down the line, you don't want to then be in that state where you've got potential risk of heart disease, neurotoxicity, osteoarthritis, osteoporosis, and obviously the negatives that then come from that, looking at brain health, things like Alzheimer's, dementia, those typical degenerative neurological conditions. And of course, heart disease, hypertension, heart attack, so on and so forth. So I think this is a message that should be promoted and driven home a lot harder than it is. And I have to just clarify and repeat myself. I'm not saying that females should jump outside of the natural realm. That is a personal choice that is very much goal dependent and person dependent. A female who's trying to attain a top level figure physique is inherently going to take or be willing to take a larger risk in their journey into that goal. A bikini competitor, the muscularity and level of condition a bikini competitor needs is more feasible within the natural realm, right, to attain that level of physique, which is why it's so appealing as a category. So I heavily stress that this is something that I think needs to be drove home a lot harder. Okay, health is and should be at the forefront of anything that we do. Bodybuilding as a sport is not healthy, but it does not mean we can try our best to mitigate the potential harm done as best as possible. And this is one mechanism or one way that we can offset that. So guys, thank you for listening. I know I'm sure there's going to be some backlash on this. You know, George is saying, oh, all girls should jump on gear, rah, rah, rah. But the message remains clear, right? Health and longevity.